Mariana, there's something you need to know about your father before I go. Promise me you'll protect our family. My mother's frail voice cut through the sterile hospital room, sending a chill down my spine. I gripped her hand tighter, forcing a smile despite the dread pooling in my stomach. I promise, Mom, I whispered, my voice barely audible over the steady beep of the heart monitor. Helen's eyes, once vibrant blue, now clouded with pain and urgency, locked onto mine. She opened her mouth to speak again, but a violent coughing fit seized her body. I reached for the water glass, helping her take small sips until the coughing subsided. Later, Mum, I soothed, smoothing her silver hair. Save your strength. The door creaked open, and a nurse poked her head in. Mrs. Reeves? It's time for your medication. I stood gathering my purse. I'll be back tomorrow, Mom. I love you. Helen's grip on my hand tightened suddenly. Don't forget, Mariana. Your father. Shoo, I interrupted gently. We'll talk tomorrow. I promise. Stepping into the hallway, I leaned against the wall, my composure crumbling. What secret about my long-dead father could be so important? And why now when Mom was? My phone buzzed, Ethan's name flashing on the screen. I took a deep breath, steeling myself before answering. Hey, honey. How's your mom? Same. I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm heading home now. How are the kids? Patrick's working on a science project, and Katie's, hold on. There was a muffled crash in the background, followed by Ethan's exasperated voice. Katie, what did I say about jumping on the couch? I couldn't help but smile, despite everything. I'll be home soon. Love you. Love you too. Oh, and Mariana? Your mother-in-law called. Again. The smile vanished from my face. What did Rachel want this time? Ethan's sigh crackled through the phone. The usual. Complaining about Dad. Hinting about money troubles. I told her we'd talk later. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache forming. Okay, we'll deal with it together. As I hung up and headed for the parking lot, Mom's words echoed in my mind. Protect our family. With everything going on, Mom's illness, Rachel's constant demands, juggling work and the kids, I wasn't sure how much more protection I could offer. But I'd made a promise, and I intended to keep it. Little did I know, that promise was about to turn my world upside down. I pulled into the driveway, exhausted from another long day at the hospital. As I stepped out of the car, a familiar voice made me wince. Mariana, how's your mother doing? I heard she's not doing well. Rachel, my mother-in-law, stood on our porch, arms crossed. Her tone dripped with false concern. She's hanging in there, Rachel, I replied, forcing a smile. What brings you by? Oh, just checking in on my favorite daughter-in-law, she said, following me inside. And my grandchildren, of course. I bit back a retort. I was her only daughter-in-law, and she'd never shown much interest in the kids before. Patrick. Katie. Rachel called out. Come give Grandma a hug. The kids appeared, looking uncertain. Rachel rarely visited, and when she did, it usually meant tension. How about some ice cream? Rachel announced, pulling out a carton from her oversized purse. Before dinner? I protested. Rachel waved me off. Let them have a treat, Mariana. You're always so strict. I clenched my fists, counting to 10 silently. This was typical Rachel, undermining my parenting, acting like the fun grandma while criticizing me behind my back. As the kids dug into their ice cream, Rachel cornered me in the kitchen. So, Mariana, she began, her voice low. I couldn't help but overhear Ethan mentioning your mother's investments. My guard went up immediately. What about them? Well, I was just wondering, with Helen's condition, have you discussed what will happen to those investments? After she's gone, I mean. I stared at her, shocked by her audacity. That's not really any of your business, Rachel. She laughed, a brittle sound. Oh, come now. We're family. And family helps each other out, don't they? I'm sure Helen would want to make sure everyone's taken care of. Everyone. I repeated, my voice sharp. Or just you. Rachel's eyes narrowed. I'm only thinking of what's best for all of us. You know, Craig and I have been struggling lately. And that has nothing to do with my mother's money, I snapped. Before Rachel could respond, Ethan walked in. He sensed the tension immediately. Everything okay in here? Rachel's demeanor changed instantly. Of course, dear. I was just leaving. Kids, say goodbye to Grandma. As she swept out the door, I leaned against the counter, trembling with anger and disbelief. What was that about? Ethan asked, wrapping an arm around me. I looked up at him, torn between protecting him from his mother's schemes and needing his support. We need to talk, I said finally. About Rachel and about my mom. Little did I know, this conversation would be the first step down a path that would change our family forever. I was folding laundry when Ethan burst through the front door, his face flushed and eyes wild. Mariana, Rachel has been hiding something huge from us. My stomach dropped. What now? Ethan paced the living room, running his hands through his hair. I stopped by their house to drop off some paperwork for Dad. Rachel wasn't there, but I found… God, I can't believe it. Ethan, what did you find? I pressed, my heart racing. He looked at me, his expression a mix of anger and disbelief. A stash of money, thousands of dollars, hidden in a shoebox in their closet. I sank onto the couch, stunned. But they've been asking us for money for months, saying they can't make ends meet. It gets worse, Ethan continued. I found bank statements. She's been gambling, Mariana. Online poker mostly. And she's in deep. The pieces started falling into place. Rachel's desperation, her probing questions about my mother's inheritance. That's why she's been so interested in Mom's money, I whispered. Ethan nodded grimly. I think she was hoping to use your inheritance to cover her losses. Anger surged through me. How dare she? After everything we've done for them. We need to confront her, Ethan said, his jaw set. This can't go on. Just then my phone rang. It was the hospital. Mrs. Reeves? Your mother's condition has worsened. We think you should come in. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I have to go, I stammered to Ethan. It's Mom. His face softened immediately. Go. I'll handle things here. As I grabbed my keys, a wave of guilt washed over me. How could I have let Rachel's drama distract me from what really mattered? The drive to the hospital was a blur. When I arrived, the doctor's grim expression told me everything I needed to know. We're doing everything we can, he said softly. But you should prepare yourself. I nodded numbly, making my way to Mom's room. As I sat by her bed, holding her frail hand, I was struck by the cruelty of it all. Here was the woman who had raised me, who had always put me first, slipping away while Rachel schemed to take advantage of our family. Mom's eyes fluttered open. Mariana, she whispered. Remember what I told you. Protect our family. I squeezed her hand, tears streaming down my face. I will, Mom. I promise. As the monitors beeped steadily in the background, I made a silent vow. I would honor my mother's wishes, protect our family's legacy, and put an end to Rachel's manipulations once and for all. The time for playing nice was over. The shrill ring of my phone cut through the quiet hospital room. I fumbled to answer it, my heart racing. Mrs. Reeves? Your mother has taken a turn for the worse. You need to come now. I bolted upright, nearly knocking over the chair I'd been dozing in. I'm already here. What's happening? The nurse's voice was gentle but urgent. Her vitals are dropping. The doctor thinks it might be time to say goodbye. The world seemed to tilt on its axis as I stumbled down the hallway to Mom's room. Ethan and the kids were at home, unaware of the crisis unfolding. I'd have to face this alone. As I entered, the beeping of monitors filled the air. Mom lay still, her breathing labored. I took her hand, shocked by how cold it felt. Mom, I whispered. I'm here. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing on me with effort. Mariana, she breathed. My brave girl. Tears streamed down my face as I leaned closer. Mom, please. There's so much I still need to know. About Dad, about protecting the family. I'm not ready. She squeezed my hand weakly. You are stronger than you know. Trust yourself. And Mariana, the letter. In my nightstand. Her words trailed off as her eyes closed. The monitors began to wail. Mom. I cried, but she was gone. The next few days passed in a blur of grief and logistics. Ethan was my rock, handling arrangements and shielding me from Rachel's increasingly frantic attempts to contact us about the inheritance. At the funeral, I stood numb as friends and family offered condolences. Aunt Michelle hugged me tightly, whispering, "She was so proud of you, honey. We'll get through this together." As the crowd thinned, I noticed Rachel approaching, her face a mask of sympathy that didn't reach her eyes. Before she could speak, Ethan intercepted her, steering her away with a firm hand on her elbow. That evening, exhausted and emotionally drained, I finally found the strength to open Mom's nightstand drawer. Inside, I found an envelope addressed to me in her familiar handwriting. With trembling hands, I broke the seal and began to read. "My dearest Mariana, if you're reading this, I'm no longer with you. There's so much I wanted to tell you in person, but time has run out. What you're about to learn will shake the foundations of everything you thought you knew about our family." I sank onto the bed, my mind reeling. Whatever secrets this letter held, I knew our lives would never be the same. With a deep breath, I continued reading, ready to face whatever truths my mother had left for me to uncover. I was sorting through Mom's belongings when the doorbell rang. Exhausted and emotionally drained, I trudged to answer it. Rachel stood there, her face a mask of concern that didn't reach her eyes. "When will you get the inheritance?" she demanded without preamble. "The payment is due soon." I stared at her, momentarily stunned by her audacity. "Excuse me?" Rachel pushed past me into the house. "Don't play dumb, Mariana. We all know Helen left you a sizable inheritance." Ethan told me about her investments. Anger flared within me, hot and sudden. "That's none of your business, Rachel." "It is when my son's family is involved," she snapped. "We need that money. Craig and I are in trouble, and you have more than enough." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I've renounced the inheritance," I said quietly. Rachel's eyes widened. "You what?" "I gave it to Aunt Michelle," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "It was Mom's wish. She wanted to ensure the restaurant's future." Rachel's face contorted with rage. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you and those kids." "Everything you've done?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean criticizing my parenting? Undermining my decisions? Constantly demanding money? We're family," Rachel shouted. "Family helps each other." "Family doesn't manipulate and lie," I shot back. "I know about the gambling, Rachel. The secret stash of money. How long have you been playing us?" Rachel paled, her mouth opening and closing wordlessly. Just then, Ethan walked in, taking in the scene with a furrowed brow. "What's going on?" I turned to him, my resolve hardening. "Your mother was just leaving," I said firmly. "And she won't be coming back until she's ready to apologize and make amends." Rachel sputtered, looking to Ethan for support. But he moved to stand beside me, his arm wrapping around my waist. "I think that's best, Mom," he said quietly. "We need some space." As Rachel stormed out, slamming the door behind her, I leaned into Ethan's embrace. The weight of the confrontation, of standing up to Rachel after years of tiptoeing around her, hit me all at once. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked softly. I nodded, surprising myself with how true it felt. "I am. For the first time in a long time, I really am." As we stood there, united against the storm that had just passed, I realized that this was just the beginning. Rachel wouldn't give up easily, and there were still secrets to uncover. But with Ethan by my side and Mom's final letter guiding me, I was ready to face whatever came next. It was time to protect our family, just as I'd promised Mom. And I wouldn't let anyone, not even Rachel, stand in my way. The doorbell rang, shattering the fragile peace we'd found after confronting Rachel. I opened the door to find Jeffrey, Ethan's brother, looking grim. "I just found out what Rachel has been up to," he said without preamble. "You need to hear this." My stomach clenched as I led him to the living room. Ethan joined us, his face etched with concern. Jeffrey took a deep breath. "I've been going through Dad's finances, trying to help him make sense of things. What I found, it's bad, guys. Really bad." He laid out a series of documents on the coffee table. Bank statements, loan agreements, and what looked like gambling receipts spread before us like a roadmap of deceit. "Rachel's been siphoning money from Dad's accounts for years," Jeffrey explained. "She's taken out loans in his name, maxed out credit cards. And it all leads back to online casinos and sports betting sites. Ethan's face drained of color. How much? Jeffrey's voice was barely above a whisper. Nearly $500,000. The room spun. I gripped the arm of the couch, trying to steady myself. Does Craig know? Jeffrey shook his head. He's been in the dark. Rachel's been intercepting bank statements, forging his signature. It's a mess. Ethan stood abruptly, pacing the room. We have to confront her. All of us. Tonight. Fear and anger warred within me. What about the kids? I'll call Michelle, I decided. She can watch them. An hour later, we gathered at Craig and Rachel's house. The tension was palpable as we sat around the dining room table, Rachel's eyes darting between us nervously. Craig spoke first, his voice trembling. Rachel, please tell me it isn't true. Rachel's facade crumbled. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed, revealing the depths of her addiction and the lengths she'd gone to hide it. As the full extent of Rachel's deception unfolded, I felt a strange mix of vindication and sorrow. This woman had caused so much pain, yet seeing her broken before us brought me no joy. Ethan's voice cut through the heavy silence. We can't support you anymore, Mom. Not financially, not emotionally. Not until you get help. Rachel nodded, defeated. I understand. I'll look into rehab programs. As we left, the weight of the evening settled on my shoulders. We'd uncovered the truth, but at what cost? Our family was fractured, trust shattered. Back home, I collapsed onto our bed, emotionally drained. Ethan sat beside me, taking my hand. What do we do now? I whispered. He squeezed my fingers. We protect our family, just like you promised your mom. In that moment, I realized the true meaning of Helen's final words. It wasn't just about guarding against external threats, but about preserving the love and trust within our own walls.
As I drifted off to sleep, I knew that the hardest part of our journey was still to come. But for the first time in months, I felt ready to face it head-on. The phone rang early Saturday morning, startling me awake. Aunt Michelle's excited voice burst through the speaker. Mariana, I've decided to renovate the restaurant. It's time for a fresh start. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and I found myself smiling despite the lingering exhaustion from our confrontation with Rachel. That's wonderful, Aunt Michelle. Mom would be so proud. As she shared her plans, I felt a warmth spreading through my chest. This was exactly what Mom had wanted. Her legacy supporting Michelle's dreams. We're having a little celebration at the restaurant tonight, Michelle said. Can you and the family come? Of course, I replied, already looking forward to it. The day passed in a flurry of activity. Ethan and I kept busy with the kids, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy despite the recent family turmoil. As evening approached, we piled into the car, heading to Michelle's restaurant. The atmosphere inside was festive, with balloons and a hand-painted New Beginnings banner. Michelle greeted us with hugs, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I couldn't have done this without Helen, she whispered. And you, Mariana. Thank you for honoring her wishes. As we settled in to eat, surrounded by loved ones, I felt a bittersweet pang. Mom should have been here to see this. Suddenly, the restaurant door burst open. Rachel stormed in, her face contorted with rage. How dare you? She shrieked, pointing at me. You gave away my son's inheritance to this? The room fell silent. Ethan stood, placing himself between Rachel and me. Mom, you need to leave. Now. Rachel's eyes darted around wildly. No, I won't let you throw away our future for some rundown diner. I rose, anger and determination coursing through me. This rundown diner is my family's legacy, I said, my voice steady. And it's worth more than any amount of money you think you're entitled to. Rachel lunged forward, but Jeffrey appeared, gently restraining her. Come on, Mom, he said softly. Let's go home. As they left, I sank back into my chair, trembling. The weight of everything, Mom's death, Rachel's betrayal, the responsibility of honoring Mom's wishes, crashed down on me. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Michelle approached, concern etched on her face. Are you okay, sweetie? I took a deep breath, looking around at the faces of my true family. Ethan, the kids, Michelle, and the friends who had gathered to support us. In that moment, I realized that this was what Mom had meant about protecting our family. It wasn't just about money or inheritance. It was about preserving the love, trust, and support that bound us together. "I'm okay," I said, surprising myself with how true it felt. "Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm home." As the evening continued, filled with laughter and plans for the future, I felt a sense of peace settling over me. We had weathered the storm, and though challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together, as a family. "Let's go to Aunt Michelle's for dinner," I said, a hopeful smile on my face. "She has something special planned." As we drove to the restaurant, I felt a mix of excitement and nostalgia. The past few months had been a whirlwind of grief, betrayal, and unexpected strength. Now, on the eve of Michelle's grand reopening, it felt like we were finally turning a corner. The renovated restaurant was stunning. Warm lighting, fresh paint, and new fixtures transformed the space while still maintaining its cozy charm. Michelle greeted us with teary eyes and open arms. "I can't believe it's really happening," she whispered, hugging me tight. "Your mom would be so proud." As we settled in, surrounded by family and close friends, I felt Mom's presence more strongly than ever. The laughter of my children, the warmth of Ethan's hand in mine, the pride in Michelle's eyes. This was the legacy Mom had wanted to protect. Midway through the meal, Michelle clinked her glass. "I have an announcement," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've decided to rename the restaurant. From now on, it will be called Helen's Place in honor of my sister who made all this possible." A hush fell over the room, followed by a swell of applause. I felt tears streaming down my face, overwhelmed by the gesture. As the evening wore on, I found myself by the window, lost in thought. Ethan approached, wrapping an arm around my waist. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked softly. I leaned into him, drawing strength from his presence. "I was just thinking about Mom's last words. About protecting our family." "You've done that," Ethan assured me. "Look around. This is what family is all about." I nodded, surveying the room. Jeffrey was there, having become a stronger presence in our lives since the confrontation with Rachel. Even Craig had come, slowly rebuilding his life and relationships in the wake of Rachel's betrayal. "It's not just about protecting them from outside threats," I realized aloud. "It's about nurturing the bonds between us, supporting each other's dreams, and standing united in the face of adversity." Ethan squeezed my hand. "Your mom would be so proud of you, Mariana. You've honored her in every way possible." As we rejoined the celebration, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but we had each other. We had love, trust, and the strength that comes from facing life's challenges together. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of true family, I knew that I had kept my promise to Mom. I had protected our family, not with money or power, but with love, understanding, and unwavering support. And as I raised my glass in a toast to new beginnings, I silently thanked Mom for her final gift, the wisdom to recognize and cherish the true meaning of family.